Hello, this is Stephen and Jennifer with Iowa Backyard Farmer, coming to talk with you today about
seed starting mixes. We're gonna start. It's February. We have looked, we have bought. They're here. We're planting. This is. It hits the ground now.
yeah, yeah, and it kind of has already hit the ground in our grow lights. We've got, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 seed starts already.
Yeah,
I think somebody's got a little seed starting addiction.
True, true, but I have good reasons. But February and March is when we plant most of our seedlings. That's for us here in Zone 5. Planning on May 1st hitting the garden running. For a lot of them, this is when we start seeds.
Yeah. So we've been doing this for about 10 years, and I remember our very first year was kind of a train wreck. Tell us about that first experience with a seed starting mix.
It didn't grow. It didn't grow, and I watered it faithfully, and I watched it, and I gave it all the love I could. I finally tipped it out of the pot, and being a peat-based one that was kind of cheap, because
we went with the cheapest stuff.
It was still dry on the bottom, and so even though I'd watered it on top, it hadn't rehydrated. The roots were dry. It was suffering.
Yeah.
And we learned that what you use really matters. So your materials really do make a difference, because even with your education, even with the love that we have in our hearts, it made a difference.
Yeah, it made a difference. So we talked about several principles just a couple of weeks ago. And what are the things that we are looking for in a good seed starting mix?
Well, it wants to be non-compacting. It wants to be light. It has to retain a little moisture. It has to drain so we're not sitting in a puddle. It needs to not leach all the nutrients out so that you have a nutrition deficiency.
Yeah.
It's got to kind of hold together your roots. All those things are important.
Yeah. So knowing that we start, this year will be about 10,000 seeds, we decided to do a little trial of just a few things that were local just to see, how do these things compare? So last year we used the Burpee seed starting mix for the first time. Previous to that, we used primarily just the Miracle-Gro potting mix, which that recipe seems to have changed a little bit over the years.
We've used several different things. Usually it's on what we can find early, what's available. We're conscious of the price because we don't want to spend too much, but we've had some really good experiences and some kind of bad experiences. And so we went out and we chose 5, and we spent the last 2 weeks playing with that. And at the end,
we came back with more questions than answers. And
we're going to do it again.
And so we're actually going to do it again, but we'll cover real quick the results from this first week, and then we'll talk about some of the things that we learned and what we hope to learn from our next step. So this is really video number 1, and we'll do a part 2 here in about 2 weeks when we can show you the results of our
1.5, because we have some results from before.
Yeah.
But
so
we want you to have success in growing seeds, because I know that's discouraging when you've planned and you prepared and you have this hope and dream, and to have it go wrong at the beginning is discouraging.
Yeah. So for us, what types of things are we looking for? Not everybody's planting 10,000 seedlings, but what are the things that will really check the box for you?
It has to be easy to work with. If we're doing a lot of things, so we considered how fast does it rehydrate? Does it stay hydrated? Does it hold the water that I need? How often do I have to water it? Does it make a good plug? I mean, does it going to hold together when I want to transplant it later, or is it going to fall apart? Speed is an issue for me. I mean, if it takes a long time, we've used the Miracle-Gro potting mix before. They add a lot of twigs and sticks that in a big pot are okay, but in small little cells like this take up a lot of space, and so I end up sifting through that, which is fine. It just takes more time.
Yeah. So let's talk about the things that we did on our first trial, and then let's jump into what we've included for our next trial.
Yeah, because we can do better. We know we can do better.
We know, because now we know
many
more. Of these were good, but none of them are the one that really checked the box for everything that we needed.
Yep.
So, one of the things we started out with this year is I just kind of go through Master Garden as a Menards kind of box store variety. We thought, well, whatever, we'll give it a try. Not sure if we're going to like it or not.
And we'll cover that in more detail in a minute, because all these are going to come in our next trial.
Okay.
But we did Master Garden, and it came up really early, did really well. Nice roots, a little crumbly
A little
because it's
crumbly,
coir.
so it would be much harder to transplant with.
Yep. Burpee is the same, almost exact mix, but it came up a little later. And this is where
Yeah.
we learned that seed starting mixes can expire. When we came to redo this test for this time, we had bought some, and it was moldy in the bag. It was an older version.
Yeah.
When you're getting garden goods early, like we are, sometimes they're trying to sell carryover from last year,
Yeah.
and not all of it's great.
And
so we had to go rebuy
for those that have like mycorrhiza or other stuff like that, or some nitrogen-based fertilizer,
They expire.
It'll disappear on you. So the Burpee surprised us. We liked it a lot last year. This year, it kind of basically came in last place.
And so we thought, well, maybe that's because we had some old stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to retry
so
that.
we're going to try that again.
And then Espoma, I hadn't really played with before, and it had some mycorrhiza. So I was like, hey, that's cool. That's fancy.
Sounds really good. And we, I guess, had some. It was the first place winner for plant health, root structure. Everything was really nice. Really looked good, but it was miserable to.
Yeah,
to
we'll
work
talk
with.
about that in a little bit too. That was kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Promix we've used a lot, and you can use it as a potting soil, not just exclusively a seed starting one. And it came in kind of in the middle of our pack. Yeah. It did great. You can see all these, they're green, nothing turned yellow, nothing died.
Yeah, so
it was okay.
So they worked okay. And then the last one was just the Miracle-Gro potting mix, not the seed starting mix, which again, it seems like the recipe's changed a little bit. There's a lot more bark and stuff in it. So
it's bigger chunks.
It's much more suited now to a bigger pot. But less so for seed starting.
But we found their seed starting mix, which does not have those big chunks, and we're going to try that and see if we can tell the difference.
Yeah.
So
anyway, we learned several things. All of these worked okay, but some of them are easier to handle, some are harder to handle. There is a difference between a seed starting mix and a potting mix. And learned quite a bit about wetting agents, because for some of the ones that were harder to deal with, we learned that wetting agents were a thing. We didn't know a whole lot about them before. Some are organic, some are not organic, some work better than others, some are maybe based on things we don't want.
So let's do that.
So let's take a look.
So let's take a look and see. I'm going to push this up here forward
so
we can see it. And let's just jump into it. And
okay.
So for this video, let's talk about the pros and cons of each of these mixes, what we liked, what makes it different from the other ones, a potential problem if we see one, because we've grown a lot of things, and then in a couple weeks after we've planted it all, we'll show you how it turns out, see if we were right.
So what did we have? We ended up with like, what, 14 or so that are...
Yeah, we've got 14, so we'll try and hustle.
So where are we going to start? So our first one that we're going to bring in this year is the Miracle-Gro seed starting potting mix.
Yeah, because I complain all the time that somebody put landscaping mulch in my potting soil, and I'm like, it's sharp, and it doesn't fit in the little squares, and then when it does fit in the squares, it takes up half the root space.
Yeah.
So this doesn't have the big chunks.
Nope.
But it doesn't also have the moisture control that I'm used to.
Yeah. So it's a very nice looking, very fine. It's basically, majority of it is peat. It also has perlite, does have a wetting agent, doesn't specify which kind. It does have some fertilizer in it, which helps it out longer term.
It's not organic,
but it's not organic, and that could be either because of the source of nitrogen or the wetting agent, because we don't know what that is. But this is probably the most popular one sold in the U.S., nationwide right now.
It's got the name brand equity. Everybody's like Miracle-Gro, and it will work. So this one's about 85-95% peat moss.
Yeah,
peat moss. So this is a very high peat moss one.
Yep.
And we wet this down, and it did just fine. It absorbs water just fine. It mixed up just fine. There's no big chunks. It'll probably work.
Looking forward to the results of that one. So that's number one. Number two, Espoma. So we had tried this one for our first trial, and we loved the performance of it for the plants. The roots, the plants, and everything looked amazing. But if we look at what it is, it's also 80 to 90% peat. Also has perlite, a little bit of limestone because
It helps the pH. Peat moss is very acidic. Limestone's going to bring that pH up a little bit, so it's not going to be too terrible.
So this one is organic. It does have a wetting agent, which is yucca, and so that's one of the organic wetting agents. Not so sure that
I'm not
really
sure
works.
that it was effective in this thing, because as you add the water in, you pour the water in, and it kind of puddles on the bottom. And even mixing it in all the way, there was still some dry spots of the peat moss. It took about 4 times longer.
About 4 times longer
to mix the water in.
Get it mixed in ready.
And but once it was ready to go, we had a really good performance. How did this come in cost if we were comparing costs?
Cost-wise, so this is available in a little bit bigger bag than some of the others. Anytime you can buy in bulk, the price per quart, for example, goes down. Generally speaking. And so this one is right in the middle. If you got a 16-quart bag, it was about 62 cents a quart.
So, yeah, so 62 cents. And what was our Miracle-Gro?
The Miracle-Gro one was 87 cents per quart. So
this is a little cheaper than the Miracle-Gro? Very similar ingredients. It does have the mycorrhiza in it, which
it does.
Which isn't a benefit, I think.
Yeah, so let's talk about the mycorrhiza for just a minute. And so that one claims 5 ectomycorrhizals and 4 endomycorrhizal fungi. A lot of big words. Do we care?
we do care, because it has a symbiotic relationship with the roots. It's going to help extend the reach of your plant so that it can bring in more nutrients. It's going to help it deal with stresses better. It's going to, in general, it works for the fungus. It works for your plant. So
the ectomycorrhizal are more.
They're geared towards more woody plants.
Yeah, so I don't know that portion will help our tomatoes, but if you're going to be starting other things, that would be helpful.
And some plants don't care at all. So broccoli, cabbage, collards, they don't care about the mycorrhizal symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
But most of your plants are going to benefit. Are going to benefit. And we've seen that. So
to say what we saw from our first trial.
For our first trial, just the Espoma and the Promix had any mycorrhiza, and the Espoma had the best looking roots, I'd have to say.
Yeah, by far.
Okay.
So, but no additional fertilizers in there, but I think the mycorrhiza really helped that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
number 3.
Yeah, so number 3.
Okay, so
I have to reach back here. Fox Farm. Fox Farm is a brand that we had never heard of until
we haven't tried this one yet.
Until just recently, and we saw not the seed starting mix, but one of the potting mixes that we'll take a look at in a few minutes. That was somebody else's trial. Yes. They tried like 4 things, and so it wasn't a very broad trial. But I when I heard about it, I looked it up, and golly, you could find it here just 2 miles from our house. So
we're like,
let's give it a try.
This one is not the cheapest one.
This is amongst the most. This is probably the second most expensive one. We had to get it at Earl May, which we all know is a little more expensive. But we wanted to give it a try. So their Light Warrior seed starting mix is mostly peat moss.
It's mostly, so our Espoma, our Miracle-Gro, we're in the 80-90% peat moss. This is only 50% peat moss, 50-60, and it's a lot of perlite. So perlite doesn't really hold nutrients or anything. It's usually there for drainage. I would use this mix if I was going to do cuttings or something generally, because that amount of perlite helps with the drainage. High. But it also has some of the mycorrhizal fungi. It's got 15, which is more than the Espoma. It's got some humic acid. Does that same thing. It's going to help with your micronutrient availability and uptake.
It has minor amounts of fertilizer in it of some sorts. Did that one was that listed as organic? I didn't have a note about organic on it, so it probably could be, but
but the fertilizer is coming from things like worm castings and oyster shell, and you've got just a little bits of stuff. So I'm excited to try this one.
I'm excited to try that. It does have about a 2-year expiration date on it. Really looking forward to that one.
This probably has the most drainage of everything we're tasting, just because that high amount of perlite.
Yeah.
All these say perlite, but if you look at that,
Yeah,
there's
there's a whole
lot more in this one.
But looking forward to the results of that one.
Okay.
So next one up was our Promix.
And we've used this a lot. We use this a lot.
Yeah, and so this is not technically a seed starting mix. It is a potting mix that is good for seed starting as well.
But if you look at it, it has the same really fine texture, and of most of our other ones, it's got the same. It's going to be peat with perlite. We're adding some coir to this one, so the coconut husk fiber stuff, and I really like the texture of this one. This one's really easy to work with.
Yeah, so this one does have a wetting agent. It's not considered organic. My guess is it's because of the wetting agent. Everything else in there would typically qualify. Does have one type of mycorrhiza.
Yeah, it just has one strain.
But we've used this in the past and been very happy with it. So I'd be curious to see how this competes against everything else that we've brought in.
And on these, this is easy to mix together with the water. The Fox Farm one, the Promix one, Miracle-Gro. So far, except for the Espoma, nothing's been hard.
Yeah. So price on that one's about 87 cents per quart based on where we, at the Walmart price.
Which is kind of the middle of the road.
Middle of the ground.
Middle of the road for us.
Not a real big deal. Now we're going to we brought in two different types of Jiffy.
Yeah. We're at the store and we're at Home Depot. Oh, Jiffy seed starting mix. We haven't tried that one. We'll try that one. And then we went to Walmart. We're like, oh, Jiffy seed starting mix. Wait, they look different. Are they different?
Yeah.
So we bought them both.
Yeah, they look. Well, let's pull them both up. We can talk about both of them at the same time.
Because on the back of the packages, you'll read the directions and it'll say if you're getting this in Georgia or if you're getting this somewhere else. The ingredients will shift based on where it's processed and where they're making it.
And who's got it. So this one from Walmart is 60 to 70% peat moss.
Peat moss, yep.
The one from
Home Depot
is 50 to 60%. So it drops, 10 percentage points-ish.
Yeah, but they make up the difference. It's the same. It's going to be perlite either way. So this is the Walmart one.
And actually, it's vermiculite. So here we were switching. Everything else has been perlite. These two have vermiculite.
And a little bit of coir. So again, you're like the Promix, you've got coir, you've got peat moss, you've got vermiculite. It mixed together okay.
So it mixed together just fine. So I didn't have any real concerns between the two, but since they had a little different recipe, and if you look online, it specifies this is the 50 to 60% version, and so
will it make a difference? I don't know.
I don't know. We will see.
They're both organic.
Yeah, both organic. Neither have any fertilizer,
and they didn't have a wetting agent,
and so
but they did okay.
Yeah, so it'll be really curious to see how everything works for both of those.
And it's an adventure. I didn't know you could get
and those
recipes from the same thing.
Yeah, those are a little bit on the cheaper side. Walmart's version was 50 cents a quart, which I think was for kind of that medium-sized bag was the cheapest. The Home Depot version was 66 cents a quart. So it's actually on the cheaper side.
It's on the cheaper side, and it's a value bargain.
It's a there's fewer things in it, no fertilizer, no wetting agents. So we'll see. So then let's move to some of the more expensive ones.
We went back to Earl May.
And
this comes in a bigger bag. This is Hoffman's, and this is going to be vermiculite and peat again, sort of like the Jiffy ones.
Yep.
It doesn't have the coir. It does have limestone for the pH, and it does have a wetting agent, but it's not organic.
Yeah. So probably because the wetting doesn't specify what it is used for the wetting agent. So my guess is that's the reason it couldn't be organic.
And if you look at this, it's nice and fluffy. It's very, very fine. I can't really see the vermiculite in this.
No, I think
it's either very small.
It's either very fine vermiculite or it is.
Because it only says 50 to 60% peat. So it's got to be something else.
Yeah.
But it looks like a lot of peat to me.
Yeah. So it looks quite a bit like the Jiffy mixes.
Yeah. And it's probably most similar. The Jiffy mixes have the coir too.
So.
And I do like a blend of those.
Okay. Moving on to our little tiny bag. We had to buy several bags.
I like this won't even fill a whole tray, but it was pretty inexpensive in the small bag, but it's not our cheapest overall.
Yeah, the price per quart is about 87 cents, so a little bit higher than average.
So Ferry Morse.
Man, that's already drying out, isn't
I know
it?
it is dry now. We've had these sitting here for an hour.
So it's the thing that's different about this one is it's peat moss is the majority of it, but it has both vermiculite and perlite in it. That does have a wetting agent, but it is considered organic, and so
it might be yucca again.
Apparently, using one of the organic sources for that.
You can see this was on the harder end of ones to moisturize or re-wet. And I don't know, it doesn't have any extra nutrients, no mycorrhiza.
No, very, very basic.
Very basic on this one.
I almost wonder if this was maybe the one that we had started out with 10 years ago that we had a not so good experience with. Just because it was in the smallest, cheapest bag. That's probably is what we would have gone with way back when.
Yeah.
So we will see.
We'll see if that one works.
Okay. So let's move on to Burpee.
So this is Burpee.
So this is one that we had used last year and we're very happy with.
And this is our first one with no peat.
So this one is completely...
this is peat-free.
Peat-free, so coir.
Yeah, this is the coconut husks, the coconut coir. And it feels, I mean, it looks a lot sandy. Let's see if I can find that. Again, they look kind of similar on first glance, but if you feel them, this feels sandier. I think and some of the mixtures it's in there for water retention, and some it's in there for drainage.
Yeah.
In my experience, it does tend to dry out a little faster, and it has a sandier texture. And in our first trials, the little plugs don't hold together.
Don't hold together, so when you pull them out, the roots fall out and all the stuff falls down.
So if you left them in there, well, if you left them in there a little longer, but you'd have to leave them in there a little longer,
quite a bit longer,
to get where it's not going to crumble, because there's nothing, it doesn't stick together at all.
Yeah. So this one is considered organic. There's not a wetting agent listed, but it does have a little bit of fertilizer coming from poultry sources.
And it didn't have any trouble. All of them say to wet it before you plant your seeds. This didn't have any trouble getting wet.
Yeah. So we'll see how this one comes out in a newer bag. Our first one was a couple of years old, and so I wanted to give it a try again. And almost identical. I don't know if you can see these. The mixtures of these, the Master Garden and Burpee, they have the identical ingredients. It is the coconut coir. It is the perlite. The exact same amount of fertilizer from the same source. I thought maybe they would be the exact same thing. The manufacturer location on the back is different, so
I mean it's a different. I mean, and it's a slightly different color. The Master Garden is slightly redder. But for all intents and purposes, they should perform about the same.
They appear to be the same, but they didn't perform the same in our first trial, which is why we want to try it again.
And how are they for price between the two?
So the Master and Garden one, this one is about 75 cents a quart. The Burpee one, depending on what size you get, I've got one bag. The new bag that I just showed was $1 a quart, but we got a bigger bag on sale, probably because it was 2 years old, for 42 cents a quart.
Yeah.
So it depends on when you get it on sale.
If you get a sale and it sounds like a really great deal, check the expiration date.
Yeah,
that's what we like.
Okay. Next is the
Fox Farms Orange.
Fox Farm.
Ocean Forest or Happy Frog?
Let's do Happy Frog. See if I can find my notes on that one.
The first ones we started with were all peat moss based. That's what's mostly made of. And then we switched and we did the ones that are all coconut coir and a couple of combinations in there. This one is the first one we're doing, and its primary ingredient is forest.
It's forest. What do they call it? This one's aged forest products and sphagnum peat moss. It's 50 to 60% aged forest stuff.
Tree compost.
Yeah.
Tree compost. Aged forest materials. It does still have the peat. It has a ton of mycorrhiza in there. It has the humic acid. It has Where are we getting our fertilizer from in this one?
It just says earthworm castings, bat guano, oyster shell, and dolomite lime.
So this one's going to have some calcium. So if you've grown anything for a long time, I find that it's difficult to get calcium. Like if you do the Miracle-Gro, like the liquid feed, it does not have calcium. There's a lot of them that have a lot of things besides the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but they don't always include calcium.
Yeah.
So this is kind of cool.
A calcium source. So this is not considered organic. I don't know why not. Maybe they just didn't want to spend the big money to be considered. But if you look up, I Googled, is Happy Frog organic? And a lot of people say yes.
Yes, but it's not listed on the bag.
It's not listed on the bag itself.
So I'm excited to try this one. I've seen other people use this with really great results. On paper, this one might be my favorite. Maybe.
So we will see. We'll have to see how it performs.
It is a little chunkier. If you were using your really fine seeds, there are some bigger chunks in there, but it's not like the bark mulch.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that is a point to bring up, is that it is considered a potting mix, not a seed starting mix. I did see a discussion online today where people were bringing up that one and saying how they had started their seeds in it, and a couple of people said, oh, you can't do that, it's too hot, and other people jumped in and said, I've been doing it for years and it's wonderful. So anyway, we will see what our experience is. So the next one from the same Fox Farm brand is the Ocean Forest potting soil, and this one is,
why are they different?
Yeah, this one's quite a bit different,
but it is. So you still have the aged forest materials and peat moss.
Yep.
And you still have the perlite.
Yep.
But where do we go different from there?
Well, so this one they added some sandy loam.
Okay.
So that one is a little bit different. A lot of the fertilizers, and it's got a decent amount of, minor amounts of fertilizer to hold over something that's been potted up for several months.
Yeah.
That comes from fish emulsion, crab meal, shrimp meal, bat guano, kelp meal, oyster shell. You can see there's kind of a ocean theme going on in here. So,
as the name would suggest. And I was thinking, and maybe you've thought this too, sometimes you get those organic fertilizers and it smells really manure-y. These do not.
They don't have a smell to them at all.
They don't have a bad smell to them at all.
So
they smell fine.
Yep. So looking forward to that one. And just two left.
And we're going totally different again. So this is the back to the roots one. And this is, again, a peat-free one, but it does also not have coir in it. So what in the world are we using?
Let's see. So this says it is made from upcycled plant matter or wood fines from around the United States.
So composted mulch. Basically.
Yep.
And so do we have anything else besides this composted mulch? It looks like vermiculite.
Yeah, so it doesn't even specify vermiculite. I don't see that. So it says processed forest products, dolomitic limestone, which adjusts the pH, has some fertilizer, mycorrhiza, and yucca extract as the wetting agent. Which is your
natural wetting agent. It does have some bigger chunks in here.
So
some bigger chunks, and it does have a more shaggy appearance to it. It is not as fine, but in terms of usefulness, I think it will be fine enough for bigger seeds. It does it have the mycorrhiza in this one too?
I'm just trying to look. There's a whole list of endo mycorrhiza. It looks like there's 4 things in here. Has a little bit of wetting agent as well. This probably has the most nitrogen of any of the seed starting mixes, but all the fertilizer comes from poultry litter, feather meal, and sulfate of potash, which is the typical ones you will find in the organic versions.
All right. So, but this one's peat free. So if you sustainable, renewable resources were your thing, and you're like, and I don't want it to travel from across the ocean where palm trees live.
Yeah, this could be it. So really looking forward to that one. I'm excited about this because it's organic, but it has all the other things that we like in it.
Yeah.
And so.
But it is a little chunkier. So we'll see how it does.
We'll have to see how it performs. And then our last one is entirely different.
Yeah.
And the last one that we just had seen, back to the roots, that one is about 66 cents a quart. So
it's not even terribly expensive.
So it's not bad for cost. It does come from Walmart, so that probably helps the price a little bit. But they sold it at other places too, though. I think. Yeah, but we got it at Walmart, so that was a little cheaper there than other places we looked. So we are cost conscious.
So no one went out and bought every seed starting mix that lives. Okay.
So,
but this one we got at Earl May too. This is called Succeed.
Succeed.
And this is a Wisconsin-based product. This is sphagnum moss, but not peat moss.
Yeah, so milled sphagnum moss is what they say. It is renewable, comes from Wisconsin.
Yep, it's a renewable resource. And it looks totally different.
It is the most unique looking of anything that we're going to trial for this. It almost looks like sawdust to me. It smells like, I remember as a kid working in my grandma's book and craft store, and on the craft section,
they had sphagnum moss.
They had sphagnum moss for decorating purposes. And this smells like, so we're bringing back some old memories. It brings back the smell memories from a long time ago walking through my grandma's craft store.
So, and it's really different. It's really different. And when we mixed this together, it fluffed all up, and then it kind of got everywhere. But it wet okay.
Yeah, that one was super dusty.
It was a little dusty to work with at the beginning.
I would probably encourage wearing a mask if you're going to use a big volume that you're if you're going to be pouring it out. Everywhere. It's going to poof all over the place.
It's going to poof everywhere. But and it's this little teeny bag. So I'm like, how much?
So
they're measuring it in inches, not even in quarts.
In cubic inches. So did the calculation price-wise. This is by far the most expensive, which you would expect from a little tiny bag, but it's over $2 a quart. And so we will trial it.
We'll trial it, but if you're doing a large volume, this would probably be cost prohibitive.
Yeah, so it is considered organic. No additional nutrients, no mycorrhiza, none of that other stuff. But I'm really curious.
Let's see how it does.
So that's it. So that's 14 different seed starting mixes that. And a couple are just regular potting mixes that we are going to trial over the next 2 weeks or so. So we'll get those planted tonight and get the results out to you as soon as we can. And I'm really curious, is there a seed starting mix that you really like?
Or don't like.
Or don't like.
Or
if there's things in here that you've had an experience with, go ahead and post those in the comments. And if you want to see the follow-up video, make sure that you subscribe to our channel so that you can see the results as soon as it pops up.
Because I'm really interested. I know that seed starting mix is part operator error and partially the material. So we'll see.
So doing a side-by-side
comparison will be really good.
Yeah. So anyway, looking forward to it. But yeah, go ahead and post your comments, questions down below, and we will talk to you in about 2 weeks.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.